I'm Paul Preston. Let's talk business in English. Last week, we talked about aligned goals and how important aligned goals can be for your organization and for your company. I mentioned when we talked about aligned goals, the idea of SMART goals. Now, some of you may not be working in an English environment. You might be working basically in your native language, but you're sending out emails in English. Or maybe you have an occasional meeting or an English-speaking client, or maybe another language client that you communicate in English. All of these options are, of course, very common. But even so, you might have heard of SMART goals, because SMART goals have become very popular in many different languages. But SMART goals are called SMART goals because of the specific words that are used to create that acronym. And I'm going to tell you what those words are. The first word is S, specific. The goals are supposed to be specific. That means no general goals. That means something that you can really identify specifically. This is exactly what I'm going to do. The other thing is measurable. You want a measurable goal because it needs to be something that you can say, okay, I can see the result of achieving this goal. That's measurable. Achievable. You don't want to come up with a goal you can't do. It needs to be something that is possible. That's achievable. Relevant. Basically, it needs to be tied into what other people are doing. It needs to be important now. It needs to be something that is possible with the resources that you have and with the results that might be expected. And it's timely or time-bound. That means that you actually have an amount of time or a duration of time that you can do it. You can define that time. You can make deadlines for yourself. And it's important now. It's time sensitive. This is something you need now. So let's go into each one of these just a little bit more detail. One of the things I think that's important about specific goals is asking yourself the 5 W's: who, what, when, where, why. I think that's useful in creating your goal. Well, who's the goal for? Who's going to benefit from that goal? And also, who do you need to help you with that goal? What specifically are you going to achieve? What is the actual specific result of your goal? When, of course, relates to the timeliness we'll talk about before, but when is the goal important? When do you need to do it? What is your deadlines, etc.? And we'll get into that in timely. Who, what, when, where? So is this goal something that you're doing inside your department? Is it something that you're doing in your personal life? Is it something that you're doing for your company as a general overall whole? Where is this goal focused? And maybe it's focused on consumer or on your customer. Who, what, when, where, why? And why is really, really important. Why is this goal important? What is your motivation for doing this goal? I think that the why can really push you through when your goals get a little tough to do. And of course, there's also the H, the how. How should you do your goal? That's your list of steps, your benchmarks along the way. How are you going to go about achieving your goal? Well, that brings us into measurable, because how you're going to achieve the goal is going to show you in some ways how you're going to measure it. You're going to create benchmarks and you're going to say these are the steps along the way to finally achieving the goal. Each mark is measurable. You can know when you hit that mark, and then you're going to go for the next one and you'll know when you hit that mark. So that becomes a measurable goal, each step on the way. And then the final goal is measurable. I can say, I did this much change occurred, and it's not a vague goal. It's a clear goal that I can measure and say I did it. Of course, achievable. I mentioned this before. This is, I think, really important because a lot of times very vague goals that are not specific, are difficult to achieve, because how do you measure that achievement? How can you say, this is the point at which I achieved this goal? So it needs to be something that you can quantify, you can actually measure in order to achieve the goal. So this needs to be also attainable. So attainable means that maybe you can't do it. Maybe it's just impossible. Some goals, maybe a very long-term goal might be achievable someday, but not in 6 months or in 1 year. Those are unattainable goals for now. Other goals, of course, will be unattainable forever. I can never become an Olympic skier. That's an unattainable goal. So I'm not going to line my goals up to become an Olympic skier, but I might want to become a better skier, and so that could be a goal. How am I going to measure that? Well, of course, until I measure it, until I know how to measure it, it's not going to be specific, but it can be an achievable goal. Okay, now let's go to relevant. Relevant basically means that this goal is important now. This is something that is needed. Maybe you need it personally. Maybe your department or your company needs it. Maybe your customer needs it. Maybe everybody needs it. But if nobody needs it, it's not relevant. So this is how you measure relevance. Is this something that I need to do, or somebody needs me to do? Is this a result that people will respect and appreciate? Is it something that's affordable? That's also part of relevance. Is it achievable, but it's too expensive? Well, you're not going to make a lot of people happy. So that's relevance. And then, of course, time-bound just is really setting that schedule. How are you going to achieve the goal? What are the steps, and how are you going to measure those steps? If you measure each step along the way, you're a lot more likely to achieve the goal than if you say, okay, here I am at point A, I'm going to get to the end of the race in a year. Well, maybe, but you might not start running for the first 3 months, and maybe or even 6 months, and then you've got double the work in half the time. So if you start setting those benchmarks and timing out those benchmarks right away, then that's going to show you the deadlines you need, the steps you need to hit those goals and hit, of course, that final goal. Of course, it's not only time. Maybe you've also got to set some cost limitations on yourself. Maybe there's some time sensitivity involved that you need to take into account when you're thinking about timeliness or time-boundedness. So that is what a SMART goal is. I hope that helps you think a little bit more about what you can do to achieve your SMART goals in the future, and what a SMART goal means when your boss tells you, make a SMART goal. So thanks for joining me this week on Let's Talk English. Let's talk business in English. Let's talk English. But thanks for joining me on Let's Talk Business. And if there's anything that I'd like, that you'd like me to talk about, get this together. If there's anything that you'd like me to talk about, please leave a note in the comments. Please subscribe to the channel if this is something that is useful for you. And go to our website, ventureenglish.com, and let me know if there's a topic that you'd like over there. Also, take advantage of our resources over there. That's venturenglish.com. You can set up a one-on-one with me also. And also, I'm going to be doing seminars on occasion, and you can get that seminar information over there as well. So please go there, ventureenglish.com. Check out our courses too. I think you'll find those very useful. Meeting courses, emailing courses, negotiation, the presentation, etc. So check those out as well. Thank you very much for joining me this week. This has been Let's Talk Business in English.